What's going on, YouTube? This is Rybo back at the bench today, and this time I have another head-to-head video of a couple buck knives. So these are the Buck Slim series knives. So the Buck Slim Select and the Buck Slim Pros over here. So you have the 110, 110, 112, 112. And I happen to have all of them in on the bench at the same time. And so this won't be a super informative video. This won't be an actual head-to-head where I rank them against each other. Because obviously there's a huge price discrepancy, right? So you're looking at the budget version here, which runs about 30 bucks. And you're looking at the not budget version, which runs not 30 bucks. I actually don't know offhand what the price is, but I would guess it's up near around $100 based on the other, the specs. They are, essentially the same knives. And so I thought I would do just a quick kind of looking at them together, observations and whatnot, just to give you an idea. If you're thinking about purchasing one of these and kind of leaning one way or the other, maybe this video helps you make your decision. It certainly has I guess influenced what I will probably keep in my collection. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me pull the 112s off real quick, and we'll just take a look at the 110s. Pretty much it's the same. I think everything I'm going to say, I'll swap them out in just a second. But you have a micarta version here, and then the kind of plastic handle, whatever they call this over here. So a couple major differences that contribute to the price. So you have the 420HC for the budget version, which is kind of a classic buck steel, which is great. Nothing wrong with it at all. And then on the Slim Pro here, and I keep getting the Slim Select and the Slim Pro mixed up. So if I misspeak, please forgive me. But you can hopefully see right there you have S30V. So an excellent steel, one of my favorites, if not my favorite steel in S30V. So steel is definitely one of the major, differences between the two. The handle material is one of the second major difference between the two. And then lastly, I would say just general build quality and attention to detail. So if you think about it, you're charging 2 to 3 times the price. You definitely want those details to be right. And these are probably more mass produced, and definitely you can see some QC issues with those that I've talked about before. But that's probably about the difference between these two different types of knives, or these two different levels of 110s. Let me go ahead and sub the 112 out, and I'll kind of go through some details. So, if you have, if you've not seen the review yet, I am a huge fan of these buck knives. I like pretty much all of them. The 110 is probably my favorite over the 112. The 112 is cramps in my hand a little bit. I do like the size of the 112 a good bit more, probably for everyday carry, but I have a hot spot right back here that's just really uncomfortable. So as much as I really want to like the 112, and that would probably be my go-to, I have an issue with the ergonomics on here. But if you look at a few details of these two kind of levels of the 110 or 112, you can see a few quality things. So first of all, this little hump that I've complained about before, and this is present as well on the 110. So it's this little hump where the top of this this bar right here, for whatever reason, is not ground out, and the top of this the blade right here, and they kind of meet, but they don't really, like, they're not symmetrical. I've never really understood what the purpose is, other than to just annoy your hand. But they do exist, and so that's been a gripe that I have about the budget version. That does not exist on this version at all. Very, very smooth. You would never really know that there was a lock bar there meeting with the blade. There's no rounded edge there either. That's very crisp. You see that 90 degree right there? That does not exist on this. So it's very rounded. So just sharper, crisper, what you'd kind of expect with, in terms of build quality enhancements on a knife that costs a lot more. But it is very nice to see. You can also see where the micarta is meeting the steel there. No gaps to speak of. It's fit very, very well. You do have a little bit, a little more wiggle room. You can probably see some daylight in there as I kind of move that around, which is, no issues there. It's a $25 knife, $30 knife, so no problem. But that is definitely a thing that I have noticed. You can kind of notice that down here on the blades as well. Just a little bit more definition here on the sharpening, a little bit more definition and crisp corners, even down here, right? So you can probably see that fairly crisp over here, but very rounded here. And overall, in general, you can compare things like the swedge there. This is rounded off. This is very crisp, and it just looks better, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if there's actually any advantage to it, but it's a sign of a higher quality knife. One thing that I did notice, and it's probably a little bit more apparent on the 110s, let me bring that in, is the tip of this knife kind of came rounded out of the box. I have not done any reprofiling or anything, but fairly round right there at the tip. The 110 Slim Pro came very, very sharp and pointy there. So if I can get these two side by side, there you go. You can see the attention to detail and the quality difference right off the bat, right there. And so in general, that's a good probably summary of a lot of the differences between the two knives. Just everything's crisper, cleaner, and whatnot on here. The micarta here is very, very nice. I would say no tactile advantage over this here. If anything, this may actually be a little bit grippier. I expected this to be to actually have some grip to it, and it doesn't. So I think it looks really nice, but a little bit disappointed in the actual the actual texture to it. But I think, it's a nicer material. I would much rather have micarta, and I think it looks really nice. And then besides that, one thing that is strikingly similar is that it's the same pocket clip, which means it kind of sucks. I mean, it's good. Like it does its job. It clips very well. It's springy. It's whatever, but super ugly, and also creates hot spots, especially for me, at least, on the 112. 112 is a knife I really want to like, but I mean, that's about to make my hand bleed. So that is one thing that, for me, especially if I look at this 110, let me put these aside really quick and look at what I think is the best knife of the bunch here. This 110 Slim Pro, good looking knife. I really like it, but man, that pocket clip for me just kills it. What could be an incredible knife, an incredible update on a classic, buck 110. That pocket clip just absolutely kills it for me. Ergonomically on the 110 at least, it's not as bad. It's still bad, but it's not as bad. But it just doesn't look like it belongs on the knife. I can kind of see it on a budget knife like this, where it's like, okay, you're gonna give up something for paying $30, but on this, man, it's a lot of money to pay to have a pocket clip that looks like that. Other things to point out, I think that's probably it. You have some nicer, what do they call it, billboarding or whatever, some nicer etching and whatnot on here. But all in all, I think that those, for me at least, were really the key differences between these two knives. If I were going to make a purchasing decision, what would I do? Well, I've owned both of these for quite a while. These are both Linton to me, and I may be purchasing the 110 there. What would I do if I could do it all over again? As a reviewer and somebody who has a general problem, I will probably keep the 110 around. No promises, but I don't know. There's something about this that I think is a great example of a good budget knife. But if I were to do it all over again, I would just purchase the Slim Pro micarta, and I think be done with it. The 112s don't do it for me for the ergonomic issues. The 110 Slim Select here is great, but I don't know. It's great, but I think the Slim Pro is a lot better. And so if you have the money, I think that this, especially being S30VN, S30VN, S30V, S30V, I think in steel alone is probably a reason to upgrade. But also just the finishing details, it's crisp. I think it'll probably age a good bit better with the micarta and the S30V. Man, if they could just do something about that pocket clip. But I guess worst case, you could take that off and just carry this like a classic buck in a pocket slip or something like that. So anyway, I don't know if this video was helpful or not, probably not, but at least there was a chance to sit around and blab about knives. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.